Hey Max, how are you? How was your day today so far?
Fine, thank you.
So you been up doing music already today, or you just got up and started the day?
Yeah, as every almost every morning, I got up at 5 a.m. to answer my emails until I think about around 9 o'clock, and then I take a shower, and then I'm here right now.
You're serious?
Serious, yes.
Really? So
Yeah.
you got the schedule every day, going up at 5, getting up at 5, and then doing some business stuff, and then starting
Yeah,
what?
that's right. My job
Crazy.
is mostly about being on tour all the day, giving some workshops,
Okay.
giving lessons, or having other dates around. And so the morning time is very important for me to make some office things because I don't have the time over the day to do this.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy. So and then you have like workshops in your hometown or traveling, or where do you do where are you mainly doing workshops and lessons?
Well, that's very different. So I often give workshops in my hometown Frankfurt or around Frankfurt, but I also give workshops throughout the whole country, throughout Europe, and also on tour. I was, for example, in USA this summer to have some masterclasses and performances there.
Wow. Okay, so you're busy traveling and teaching. Could you tell us a little bit about like what are your main fields? What kind of workshops are you doing? And yeah, what is your what is your stuff? What is the stuff you're doing?
There are some topics. Mainly, I'm a percussionist, so I give some workshops. I studied orchestral percussion when I was studying in Berlin, and so I give many workshops that deal with percussion playing itself, the many instruments, how to use them as a solo or chamber music instrument, or also in orchestras. And because of my electronic background in my concert performances, I often teach how to use electronics alone, or how to combine the electronics with acoustic music, how the software works, and how to use it in the live situation, etc., etc. And also this electronic things become very important, which is very important, I think, for the school schedules. So many teachers come to me, and I tell them a lot how ideas could be to include electronic stuff in the let's say the normal school music lessons.
Ah, okay.
Maybe you can combine the normal school lessons with some electronic stuff to make a bit an interesting input in one lesson or something like that.
So can you give us a picture? How does it look like? Do you talk to a teacher and say like, well, you could do a hip hop beat like this and then show it to the kids, or is this the direction, or is this?
Yeah, that can be in direction, but mainly the idea is to use electronic devices to or maybe let's say to include electronic devices in already existing educational ideas. So, for example, I was recently talking about the if we talk about percussionists or anybody who wants to play a rhythm, there is always a problem that if you play very fast notes, it's no problem. But if there is a break, that's the problem with every beginning musician. You are there is a chance to shorten this break, because you have to count even if you don't play something. Every musician does know this problem. So I was working out an educational idea with a delay, a guitar effect. So you have a microphone, you have the delay, and if you clap some rhythms and you set the delay that maybe the sound out of the box comes in 16th notes or something like that, you hear something in between the notes you play, so you can use this to make your rhythmic feeling and your rhythmic playing better or something like this. That is one example.
Ah, okay, very interesting. So that leads us to another topic. You have this homepage for electronics and percussion, or is it percussion and electronics?
Yes.
Percussion and electronics. So this is just a presenting platform for you, or is it an artistical thing as well for you to say like, well, this is actually my artistic thing I'm presenting here, or well, so what is the homepage about, or what is this project about?
Okay, the homepage mainly is about. I mean, as you see, the website is very confusing maybe at the first sight, because it has so many different sites on it. That is why I do. It's because I do many different fields in my work, and one of this field is this percussion and electronics stuff. And the thing about this is, some years ago, I used to play one piece. That was the first piece with percussion and electronics I ever played. It was the Fabian Theory from Nigel Westlake.
Okay. It's
a piece for marimba that uses guitar delay and a loop station.
Okay.
And you play some 16th notes pattern on the marimba, and the delay records the marimba sound via the microphone, and so there comes a marimba sound in 16th notes after it, like an echo or something like that. And in one place in the piece, you record some notes, and then they will play as a pattern, and you play to this pattern, etc. So this was the first piece that I played in a quite mixed repertoire of concerts. So I played some chamber music pieces, some classical solo stuff, and I got to see this piece, and I was thinking about, I have to try to include this in my concert program. And as I first did this, it was a lot of work, because working with this electronic stuff at the first time for a classical musician that does only work with a stick beating on something and do not doing anything else, is very hard. So you have to check out really this electronic stuff. And this took quite a lot of time, but it was worth it, because I liked this so much that I more and more included more and more stuff of this electroacoustic compositions in my concerts. And from then on, I created a concert form or a repertoire that was only dealing with this electroacoustic stuff. And this is what the percussion and electronics is about.
Okay, very interesting. Cool. Is there a scene for percussion and electronics, or because you played this year at Loop at the Ableton conference? I missed you, but I saw the video, or there is a video on YouTube.
Yeah.
About your whole performance. It's 3 pieces, right? It's one is snare drum, one is vibraphone, and another one vibraphone as well. Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So and in the descriptions you can see that these are actually pieces written by other people. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
From composers from all over the world.
Okay, so I was like, okay, so there is kind of a scene or something, because I've never saw something like this before, so it's really new to me. My question would be, is there a scene? Are you connected? Are there a lot of composers out there, or is it what's happening in this field?
So it's like there are many composers working in this field, but it's not too easy to find them. It becomes more and more easy, because the scene is growing, and of course Facebook groups, etc., are helping to connect with these people. But it's really upcoming scene, so it grows, and it's not too easy to find many people that work with that, because the scene is a bit. It's not very exactly another scene that the pure electronic music scene, you know. So many people that are usually electronic musicians and perform themselves sometimes have the idea to compose a piece for another one, or that can be played in any place of the world from another musician. So they put some of their electronic stuff in a tape or in a piece and compose an instrumental part to this. And also there can be composers that come from the classical background and maybe have a professor at the university who says, hey, let's do some electroacoustic music if you want. And so there are many people coming from very, very different background, and there is not one pool. Let's say I go into the electronic composers class at university and they're all there, you know.
Okay, right. So the piece you are playing, or you played at Loop, which is the first one with the snare.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about it? You're playing snare drum and you have a backing track or music playing along, and you just sync to the music, or how is it working technically?
Yes, at Loop there was something special that is maybe very important to tell before. I had the performance together with the guys of Mountain. That's a software. They had a venue at Loop, and this performance was about, I was in the middle of a 360-degree loudspeaker installation, and with this software, I had the chance to mix the electronic part in a spatial feeling. Yeah. So with the first piece, it's the Coena Rudimentalis from Carlos Pasecci, and it's like the composer usually sends with his score, of course, because you have to know as a musician what you have to play in the piece. He sends an electronic tape. So if you usually perform this in a normal way, you are on the stage, and beside you there are two loudspeakers, stereo loudspeakers, and you play the tape, and then you begin to play to the tape. In the score, there is a line above my voice that I play to see what the tape does every time. So I have something to check out if I'm right, or if I'm like a partner, music partner or something.
Okay.
And the idea I had for this Loop performance, and also the idea I have in my performances at all now, I'm working on this idea that I ask the composers, because this field is like in a big development now, I feel. And I asked the composers if they maybe could send me, because everybody who produces electronic music, he has maybe, let's say in Ableton or Pro Tools, doesn't matter, he has thousands of tracks in one piece, and then he exports one wave file and he says, that's my track. Yeah. And if you come to anybody and say, maybe you could send me all your different tracks from this piece, somebody would like, I don't think so. That's too personal, maybe. Let's just check out and listen to my one wave file or something like that. Yeah. Of course. But what I'm trying now is to communicate with all those composers and tell maybe, hey guys, I have the idea, I have this software solution, and I need the different tracks from your piece, so I can send the different tracks to different locations in the room, every edge, or at the roof, or at the bottom, so it makes the performance more interesting for the audience. And this was the time where I talked to all these composers, and Carlos was like, okay, yeah, I can send it to you. Cool. And he sent it to me, I think 7 or 8 tracks of this one piece. And there was the possibility through Ableton, when you import these tracks, these different tracks to Ableton, every single track, you have a plugin from this software I recently talked about, from this Mountain thing, to record an automation that says you can pre-record where the track moves around in your spatial room. Of course, they can sit anybody like it was at Loop and make this a live thing. But you are also possible, and that is very important for my research work. You have to be able as a performer to do this alone, because you not every time have anybody there that does everything with the electronics.
Yeah, of course, and you need a big sound card with at least 8 outs, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exciting. So it was a special performance for you as well, because you had the chance to create a 360 sound environment.
Absolutely.
Okay, exciting. Normally electroacoustic or electronic and percussion stuff you're doing is written out sheet music. It's written out sheet music.
Yes, it's
okay. So it's notated, and the Carlos Pasecci piece is, you have one backing track and you have sheet music and you have a little line where you can orientate through the piece a bit. So you're playing to the, let's call it the backing track.
Yeah.
Is there any other form of like more dynamic, more communicating with the computer. You mentioned like the guitar delay you were using with the marimba. And I think there's one video on your YouTube channel where you're integrating visuals in real time, or that would be the question: is it in real time, or just, or the to formulate a good question? Are you doing any stuff where you're like communicating with the computer more than just playing to the computer?
Yes, there are some pieces that work with communicating more with the computer. There, as I told you, there is the Fabian theory piece for marimba, for example. There are some other pieces. There is also one piece that works with many composers. This maybe before work with some software programs where they can program a special thing that the computer does while you are playing. There's several software that is where it's possible to do this. The most people might know Max for Live or Max MSP, and there is also a program called Super Collider, and there are some other programs as well. And there are some pieces, for example, one piece I was playing on my US tour, it was a piece for you play very full vibraphone chords and very close to each other notes. So it's something like a cluster accord, very many notes at one time, and the computer via the microphone that goes into the computer through an interface recognizes your chord that you're playing and produces a tone, a sinus tone that is right beside the note you're playing. So it really sounds like anybody is really playing very bad to you and does not match the tone very nice or something like that. But because it's so close, it's like a vibrating atmosphere in the room at this moment. So you are really communicating with the computer.
Wow.
And there is another piece where maybe there are quite a few pieces. Some composers were thinking about maybe it's not too good to have the tape so determined. So if you play and there is no chance to the track every time, it's 4 minutes 20 or something like this, like a playback or so.
Yeah, right.
And many composers are working with software programs like Max MSP or something to give you the chance to have a MIDI foot controller or something like that. And they write, play this 10 measures and be around 15 seconds fast for this passage or something like this. And when you're finished, on the next one, you click the MIDI pedal and start playing the next part. So if you need 10 seconds or 12 or only 9 seconds, it's no problem. The tape or anything else starts when you hit the MIDI controller the next time.
So you're chopping the piece into bits and then saying, okay, at this end, I'm gonna have a ritardando, and I'm just go as long as I want, and then when I hit the pedal, we start at the second part or the next part. Okay.
Exactly, and also some parts where you hit the pedal like a MIDI controller, and there's coming a sound, and it stays as long as you hit the pedal, and it's written in the piece when you have to stop to hit the pedal again, etc.
Okay. So how does this work when you're writing? You're writing your own pieces as well, aren't you? Yeah. So how does this work? Because it sounds like it includes a lot of programming, or at least have some plug-in ready, or have a technical idea besides the artistical idea as well. And I think there are a lot of different approaches. What is your approach, and what works for you? What makes fun writing?
I tried out a lot of ways. I mean, coming from a classical background, the first thing when I first sat down and was thinking about, oh, maybe let's try to write own music. It was like I was sitting down and having a score, a blank score, and writing some notes. And because the only imagination these days I had from a new piece was like, okay, I have to write some notes like the composers do that pieces I play. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I'm a classical educated musician. I was thinking, okay, I have to build a score and say which part does what, etc. And that, of course, that was shit. It didn't work out for only one piece. No matter. But it's experience. So I worked out and worked out and worked out. And what I recently found is the best way for me to work is a much more random way. Mm-hmm. So I do a really lot of field recordings that inspire me very much when I go out in the street, and I record almost everything. As long as the SD card is not full, I record everything that may be interesting for me. And to thousands of tracks I didn't even listen after that, of course. But sometimes I only check out some recordings, and there is something that inspires me, and I cut this out and use it for maybe a loop or something that goes around in the studio. And then I have my in the studio I have my instruments microphone every time. So because I have not too much time when I go to the studio, I don't want to waste half an hour to build up everything. So it's everything there, and then I go walk around. This loop I talked about, this field recording loop, goes around the speakers, and I walk from the vibraphone maybe to the marimba or to some tiny Chinese cymbals that make sounds, etc. And I record some things that come to my mind when I hear this first loop thing.
Great. Okay.
Then I go back to the computer and listen to what I recorded. And it's the same thing. There are some things that, they are very groovy or very ambient or very cool sounds. And so I cut these things out, and maybe I loop something, or I say, I have to do this again, maybe wrong note, but right pattern or something like this. Okay. And then after that, I experiment with electronic effects or with the guitar effects on board or outside the computer in analog effects. Everything I try to use. So this is more the random way, not the very straight classical way to come to a composition, more like a one-man jam session or something.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. That's very exciting. So you have a studio where you have all your gear set up.
Yes.
So you just can walk in, switch the computer on.
Yeah.
Put anything you recorded in the field on the computer, blast it out on the speakers, and then just jam, press record, and then you play for half an hour or maybe till you have an idea or till you want to sit down and re-listen to it. That's okay. That's a good way, because you stay in the flow this way, don't you?
Absolutely, and that's the thing. I every time I recognize it's a very inspiring atmosphere, because maybe if some guys also come to my studio and want to have some lessons, even some electronic lessons or some acoustic lessons, it's always the thing. You can walk 1 meter to the desk and say, "Hey, let's record this," or "Hey, you have this electronic pattern right now. Let's check it out. What you think could sound good to this at the marimba?" So also cool. In my educational way, it's a very inspiring atmosphere there.
Great. Okay. So what software do you use most, or for recording, or what's your main tool for working with
my
the
main
computer?
My main tool is really Ableton Live, I think. Yeah, because even when I record my CDs, the thing is, I have many tracks, and I have to combine this Ableton clip playing maybe with the recording track, etc. And I think this software really works perfectly for this art of working.
Okay, because I'm not sure if I fully got it. Because you want to stay in time, or because you're experimenting with time a lot? Because it's not like you're not playing normal 4/4. I'm guessing. All the time, it's like more sound spheres and feelings and clusters. So It's really
No,
funny
yes,
because my
it's not. I know there is of course, it's very cool because you have to the chance to have the click every time, etc. in the Ableton software. But that's not the way I use it. Most of the time, I see, of course, this 4/4 lines you see when the recording starts.
Yeah.
But I don't think about that. It's not very often that I click the tempo that I want to compose in or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Which, of course, in the later post-production thing, makes it a bit hard if you say, let's copy and paste these 4 measures. It's not every time where the line is where the measures end or something like this. That's maybe I have to optimize this a bit.
Okay. So it's Ableton Live mainly, and then I'm guessing you're using a bit of Max for Live stuff as well, or?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when you're going to visual stuff, what are you using there, or is it you're collaborating with people and sometimes you're doing the stuff yourself, or how does it work?
I mostly collaborate with people in this visual area because I also experimented a bit because, yes, there is the possibility even to control some lights or something with Ableton automations, etc., or some visual stuff parallel to the Ableton thing that is linked to different parts and something like that. So it is possible for a single performer to make his visuals, of course, but as I'm currently I'm really searching for a way where I can, as we talked before, perform this electroacoustic pieces in an absolutely free form. So I really try to not have every piece 4 minutes and next gig also 4 minutes, etc. To make it a bit more free. How long it is, maybe it depends also on the live situation, how the audience comes to this music, etc. So for me, it's the best way to have a live person with me because it's possible then to be a bit like not too determined in the concert.
Yeah. Okay.
This. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So brings me to my next question. Like, what is important for you? Why do you do this kind of music? What do you want to express, or what does it give you, or what is this whole electroacoustic new music thing about for you? What happens for you there?
It's a very important thing for me because I feel like there are so many parallels in the contemporary classical music and the today's electronic music. But I feel the main thing about this is it's seen in 2 different fields. So if one talks about electronic music, everybody in the classical section maybe is like, "Pooh, oh, it's electronic music, dance floor stuff, etc." You know what I mean? And if you talk to somebody who does really complex electronic music, I mean, everybody that listens to electronic music knows that maybe you remember the Daedalus performance at the Loop, or any other one, maybe FX Twin, etc. They are doing absolutely complex electronic music or Venetian snares, etc. It's crazy stuff and really complex. And the electronic musicians, even if they don't call themselves composers or something like this, have really complex ideas about their music and are really creative musicians. And the thing is, if I was talking to electronic musicians about this classical thing, they were like, "Oh no, I don't know anything about music theory. I'm sorry. I'm more the electronic experimenting musician, you know." And as the person in between, I feel these 2 genres are very close, and they shouldn't be separate in the heads of the audience or many people, because there are so many parallels, and it's very cool to collaborate and to mix some things of this piece and some things of this piece. So it's worth it because I think it brings some effort to the music. And this is the main thing why I do this so much, because of course I like it very much to work with electronics and acoustics, but also something more idealistic. It's like very important not to think in these single slots.
Okay.
To be more interdisciplinary or something like this.
Okay. Cool. So when you teach, what do you teach most, or maybe for people who are watching this or listening to this, if they are looking for someone, what could you teach them, or what are your fields, and what are your workshops about? What are your lectures about?
Mm-hmm. So that's very different, because since I am working for a few years now, also with Skype lessons, there are coming also people not only around I don't know, Frankfurt or the near area that are able to travel to my studio. There are coming now people from all over Europe to ask questions. So the fields that I'm teaching became a bit wider, because the questions become more different.
Okay.
I basically, of course, I teach the classical percussion stuff. So people come to me, or they take Skype lessons if they have questions depending on pure percussion technique, music pieces, contemporary music, or experimental music, classical music, something like this.
And that covers percussion, mallets, and drums, or percussion and mallets.
Everything you are able to beat on, or something like this. Percussionists do almost everything, I feel. In the orchestra, we are always the guys who have to blow the whistle, or everything that nobody else wants to do, you know. And this is one field, and that's all my roots, let's say, because I come from the classical percussion section, and that's very important for me also for my music, to have a solid education in this area. And then I also teach this electronic stuff, how to use the electronics, and ways to produce your own pure electronic music, and also to use how to build up your electroacoustic music setup, or maybe how to play at least electroacoustic music piece. If somebody that it doesn't have to be a percussionist, if somebody who wants to play electroacoustic piece, there's the first question: maybe what software do I need? How the cables on the stage? How to use the MIDI controller, etc. There can be very basic questions, and as well very complex questions. And yes, I'm giving, as I told before, many lessons to educators themselves that want maybe to include electroacoustic music in their maybe instrumental lessons in their own studios, or at music schools, or in the normal school teachers that want to include some interesting lessons in between, maybe with the electronic stuff, iPad apps and something like this.
Okay.
And the last thing is that more and more comes in the last time, because obviously people find it interesting how to come to maybe their own, because many times I do my own concerts, and I'm organizing own concert performances, etc. And that of course needs a bit of knowledge about how it works to get maybe some funding for concerts, or where to perform, etc. And this also is some kind of coaching stuff I do sometimes.
Wow, that's a wide field, big wide field. Cool. Yeah, I think okay, there's one more question, but what are the difficulties with live electronics, which not needs to be cracked next? It's a question on my sheet here, but I think one thing you said already was being able to not have to play in time with the computer, or to stretch or to shorten stuff. Are there any other things you would say, okay, this is really a big thing which needs to develop for me to make it more fun, or to make it more easy to express myself
Yes, I of course this is a very important thing with the computer as an instrument, as you told. But there are some other ideas, of course. Maybe I want to experiment more with this spatial idea to place myself and maybe the sound of the percussions as well as the electronic tape in a more spatial atmosphere for the audience. Right. Also, there are, because I'm an addict to every technological new thing, so I also experiment at the moment with some virtual reality glasses and with 360-degree video cameras. And
right, okay.
I don't know really where this heads to, but everything that comes, I check it out and I experiment with that, and maybe there comes something cool out of it, maybe not, I don't know.
Exciting, okay. Have you ever tried stuff with the Kinect?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah. Make sounds with movements, etc. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. I'm playing vibraphone as well, and I wanted to try out just with the Kinect to just to make different audio effects turn on and off by movement, because as a vibe player you don't have anything left, you just could hit something, a pad or something, but it was working quite well. It's a really great piece of technology, and it's not that expensive actually, so it's really great. Cool. What are your next projects coming up? What are you working on? What's the next big thing we're gonna see from you?
Okay, so yes. Now until Christmas and the first January weeks, I'm very busy with writing, because I have to finish one article that comes into a book that will be published next year. That deals with this electronic education stuff we talked about, and then of course I try to have some Christmas vacations, because I feel like I didn't have any time, any day free this whole year. So I'm really looking forward to go to the couch, and have some, I don't know, tea and chill out a bit. But after that, of course, next year there are coming a few things. I recently got to know that I was invited to be a lecturer at an academy near Munich, so I will teach next year at another place also. There are coming very interesting performances. For example, in January I will be at Alte Oper in Frankfurt to perform with a beatboxing artist. And we're experimenting a bit with this percussion, beatboxing, electronic, etc. Ideas. And there are upcoming installation projects where I do sound installations and also percussion electronics performances. So the schedule is very full.
Wow.
And as I have the time, I try to actualize my blog on the website to inform everybody who's interested about what I'm doing. But actually, I have a bit less time to finish this post, unfortunately.
So what do you do when you're not doing music or teaching or answering your business emails? How do you relax?
That's a good question. I really like to be outside in the nature,
Okay.
My dream is in a few years to live somewhere where absolutely nobody is around.
Okay.
and to have that's just a joke. But I really love it for some hours at least to be at a place where absolutely nothing is, because living in a city and having studied in Berlin, etc., and being on tour every day, you recognize that there is every time anything, a car driving, some like there you hear some sound every time. Even it's only a silent sound. And I really, really like places where there is nothing, just nature sounds or something like that.
Okay.
So I'm escaping into nature, maybe to have a walk, or that's my relaxation thing.
Okay. Sounds good. Cool. You're going for a walk today? You got the time, or?
No, I fear I don't have time.
Right. I stole you the hour you got for a walk today with this interview. Okay, Max, is there anything you would like to say or you would like to mention, or?
No,
would like
I
to
think
add?
I think everything is set. Next year, that's the only thing I forgot. Maybe there will be out my Percussion and Electronics CD with compositions. So maybe if somebody that is interested in this field, check out my website, and I will actualize then when it's released.
Cool, wicked. Okay, yeah, I will of course add a few links to your pages and YouTube channel and stuff to this interview. Cool. Max, thank you very much for
You're
this
welcome.
great interview. And I think we're going to hear a lot from you in the future. It sounds like it. You're working on a lot. So I'm looking forward to see more stuff coming from you. And yeah, if people are interested, so they know now, they can contact you and get lessons with you or book you for workshops and stuff. So that's always important for people to know. Cool. Okay, Max, have a great day.
You also.
And hopefully talk to you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Take care.